this theater at this location been in existence?
I planned and built this theater 29 years ago. We will be celebrating, hopefully, our 30th anniversary next fall.
And so, what has this been like? I mean, when did you get the notice that you had to close? When did you close, and what has it been like over these months?
Well, we were shut down by state mandate March 16th. It's been 6 months. When it first began, I thought we'd be back open for a busy season starting Memorial Day, and then we'd capture our busiest season of the year, June, July, August, and it would be a little bump in the road. 6 months later, it's not a little bump in the road for anybody. Our resources are drained. I've managed to keep people working full-time. My office manager, my general manager, and one of my theater managers. And it is hard to plan anything when the governor of the state tells you one thing, then changes it, then tells you something else and changes that. And 6 months later, we have no idea when we'll be allowed to open. Very discouraging, hurting a lot of people, and it has to stop. There has to be an end. There's absolutely no reason why movie theaters shouldn't be open. I've been operating movie theaters since Richard Nixon was in the White House, and I've been operating them safely. My general manager came to work for me 32 years ago. He has decades of operating theaters, and we know how to do it safely. We're not amateurs. And our patrons know we can do it safely. And there's absolutely no reason why we should stay closed.
In terms of, what has been the loss, if you can give economic. Oh, I'm sorry. What has been the loss?
You could take that off.
No, it's liability, our corporate. In terms of the economic weight of what you guys have the toll.
Well, our resources are tapped. We're as close to bankruptcy as you can possibly come without going through that portal. On October 7th, we have a school tax bill for this theater due almost $27,000. In Hyde Park, 2 days later, at our Roosevelt Cinemas, we have a school tax bill of almost $29,000 due. Tomorrow, I'm sending Governor Cuomo a short letter asking him to send me a personal check for $56,000. I don't expect a response, but I'm going to send it anyway with copies of my school tax bills.
In terms of that, that's going to be one of my questions. Are you guys petitioning the state? What kind of correspondence have you had with the state to get them to hear your position of the
State representatives of the National Association of Theater Owners have had many meetings with representatives of the governor's office. They have issued a 9-page protocol and procedures of safety guidelines that will be followed. We thought we were going to be open the first week in July was when we hit phase 4. That's what we were told in March. Theater owners planned for that. They bought equipment. They hired back employees and trained them in all the safety protocols. And then on June 24th, like a week or 10 days before we were scheduled to open, the rug was pulled out from under us. We've now lost all those employees that we were going to put to work. They moved on to other jobs. And we're right back in the same position we were in March, minus hundreds of thousands of dollars that have been laid out in fixed expenses to maintain the buildings, the taxes, the mortgage, the utilities, the insurance, and with no end in sight. It's borderline criminal.
In terms of the three, you have three locations in the area. Can you explain
New
them?
Paul Cinema, Roosevelt Cinemas in Hyde Park, and the Lyceum Cinemas.
And you own one in Vermont, is that true?
Two in Vermont.
Two in Vermont.
St. Johnsbury, Vermont, and Bennington, Vermont.
And so I guess let's go into a little bit the precautions that you guys have put in place. I read a little bit in the Poughkeepsie Journal. Tell me what protocols and precautions you guys have.
You're going to have to stay for, that's going to be early on in the presentation. My general manager is going to go through every safety protocol that we're ready to institute tomorrow if we could reopen.
See, and so I know there's a fogger machine, you know, what is that exactly?
We're going to spray you down with it at probably about 10 minutes after 7. You will be the most disinfected employee that Spectrum has.
I bet. You know, what is your
We'll spray your car too if you like.
Definitely. Thank you. It needs it. In terms of what do you want to tell, you know, theater goers that may be cautious about coming back? You know, what do you want them to know?
I want them to know that that theater owners have worked very hard to make sure that their staff is safe and that everybody who walks in the door will be safe. Happiness should not be illegal. We're in the happiness and popcorn business. And you know, movies since 1898, when Thomas Edison first showed a movie in New York City, movies have provided escapism, entertainment, education, and an industry was born and never, ever, ever interrupted one time until last March. It's been 6 months, it has to stop. My theaters are going to be 100% safe facilities. And I'm sure that most other theaters will be too, if not all. Sure as heck be a lot safer than a Walmart or a Home Depot or people fighting over toilet paper in a grocery store.
Definitely. And in terms of, is there any difference that you feel between the big box, you know, theaters, AMCs, Regals, versus yours? Are there any benefits to coming to a smaller theater as opposed to a bigger one when things do open in our state?
Of course. The smaller theater is locally owned. The prices are always lower. My theaters are probably maybe a little bit above half what the Regal Theater in the Galleria Mall in Poughkeepsie charges, or any Regal theater. Regal is owned by a British corporation. It's not local. They don't care much about local people. AMC Theaters, the largest chain in the country, which has been on the verge of bankruptcy for several years, is owned by a Chinese conglomerate. To keep going temporarily, they just borrowed a couple of months ago $500 million. And you know, the local theater serves the local community. We do fundraisers for Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. We raised almost $3,000 for Make-A-Wish last year. We raised, while we were closed, we raised over $1,000 for a local veterans group. Over the years, we've collected tons of perishable, non-perishable food items for food pantries. The chain theaters, the big box theaters, don't do this. They don't do this.
Right.
You know,
in terms of, did you guys apply for PPP loans, or is that not something that you had access to?
We did for the 3 theaters in New York. That was a drop in the bucket when you compare it to our fixed expenses. It was a very small drop in the bucket, what we were entitled to.
And in terms of, you said you kept some of your staff employed. What did you have them doing so that, you know?
We gave away, since we started in April, we gave away over $25,000 worth of popcorn and food. One night night in this parking lot on a drive-through, we gave out 1,000 hot meals to people, passed them into cars with some help from some local restaurants. We have delivered popcorn to schools, churches, fire companies, police departments, homeless shelters, the county jail in Poughkeepsie. You name it, we've been there. The sheriff's department. So I've kept everybody busy, you know, and took care of a lot of maintenance items in the theaters, you know, that needed done.
Last question, you know, how long do you guys think you can make it without having that, you know, that green light from the state?
We can't. We can't. We need. If we got a green light today, I can't guarantee you that we're going to make it to our 30th anniversary next fall. A patron of ours in Red Hook started a GoFundMe page for us, and a 17-year-old patron of ours in Hyde Park started another one. If people want to go to our GoFundMe page and help out, they can find a link to it on our Facebook pages, Lyceum Cinemas and Roosevelt Cinemas. There'll be a link there. If they'd like to make a donation, they can do so from there. We appreciate it.
Perfect. Anything else that you want to mention that I haven't asked?
And you know, you've covered quite a bit, and I've talked quite a lot, so I think we're finished.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Can I get your first and last name?
Robert Lawinski,
Can you spell the last name?
Lawinski.
And you know, in terms of choosing, tell me your role with this theater.
What I do is I represent privately owned movie theaters, owners, and I'm the middleman between them and the movie studios. So I work with the studios to get the films into the theaters and negotiate what terms they pay back to the studios.
Definitely. And in terms of, you know, I'm sure you've talked to countless private-owned theaters in the past few months. What are you hearing from them?
Well, I represent movie theaters all over the United States. And I have several states that are open where I am booking movie theater. In Connecticut, in Vermont, which Al Bulay's 2 theaters. And I have West Virginia, I have a theater in Florida. And there have been absolutely no issues in these theaters. Certain theaters, they take temperatures of the people entering the theater. They have all their protocols in place, safety protocols. Everybody is, we haven't heard of one issue at all in the theaters that are open. In California, the governor there set a schedule of how, based on COVID, they could open. So they've opened San Diego, they have opened Orange County, and they haven't opened Los Angeles. And the biggest detriment to the theater owners and anyone that is in the theater business is the longer New York State and Los Angeles stay closed, the movie studios look at this and say, I'm not going to release my big budget film. So, case in point, on Monday, we got a call from SDX that their big action movie with Gerard Butler, Greenland, is out, not opening next Friday. We don't know what the new date is. They're working on a rescheduled date. We know Warner Brothers just recently moved Wonder Woman out of October 2 and moved it to Christmas. So basically, if New York doesn't get open and LA doesn't get open, the studios are going to not release these movies. We're very concerned what Disney's going to do with Black Widow on November 6th. You know, I have a feeling that if New York isn't open in LA, this picture's going to move. What's going to happen to these theater owners? How can they survive? What is the reason for the general public to come out to the theater to get excited about movies? Right now, there isn't a movie. Could you tell me what a movie you would get excited about? Look, Warner Brothers stepped up to the plate with Tenet. Big $200 million budget film. you know, and we are so grateful to Warner Brothers, you know, for them doing it. It's a very cerebral film, so it doesn't work in small towns. And you know, people saying they're disappointed. I'll tell you, the theater owners that I have were very happy that Warner Brothers stepped up to the plate. And also a new studio, Solstice Studios, which released in August Unhinged, the Russell Crowe film. And you know, we need that to get people interested in going back, because if you're just playing movies, library films from the 70s and 80s, you can watch, stay home and watch that on TV. So, you know, that's what we need, because November and December look fantastic movie-wise. And if those movies don't stick, like the Bond movie is November 20, and you know, Crude's Universal just moved that to November 27, and and you got Wonder Woman at Christmas and Dune, and you know, there's a lot, West Side Story, and you know, we're hopeful. But if New York doesn't open, you know, it's bad. It's bad, and everybody suffers. Restaurants suffer, employees. I mean, get them off unemployment. Let the people, you know, open these theaters up in New York. If you want to open it in stages, open up upstate. If you don't want to do the metropolitan, you know, and work your way down. You know, it's very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. So, I don't know how these guys are going to survive if New York doesn't get open anytime soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I've been safely operating movie theaters since Richard Nixon was in the White House. Are we clapping for that or for Nixon?
No.
Andrew Cuomo was 7 years old when I started working in movie theaters. He was 7 years old when a guy named Buddy Hackett bought me my first illegal beer in New Jersey. I was 17, the drinking age was 21. Buddy Hackett was a customer at the theater with Jerry Vale, and he dragged me to the gin mill with him one night and bought me my first illegal beer when Andrew was 7 years old. I started managing movie theaters when Andrew Cuomo was 11 years old. Matt Ewer, my general manager, most of you know, I hired Matt 32 years ago when he was 16 years old. Between the two of us, we have nearly 80 years experience safely running movie theaters. We would have been two people that Andrew Cuomo could have called if he wanted to know how we could safely operate movie theaters. He hasn't called us yet. We were shut down in March. 6 months ago yesterday. Thomas Edison started running movies in New York City in 1898, and an industry was born. An industry that was never, ever interrupted. Not for one day until March. 6 months later, 47 theaters are now operating movie theaters safely. Cuomo's latest excuse is the positivity rate. California is letting counties with a positivity testing rate of less than 8% open their movie theaters. New York was today's announced positivity rate of 0.87 of 1% is today the lowest in the country. It's been the bottom three for almost 2 months have been New York, Maine, and Vermont. The other 47 other theaters have opened up. Cuomo has had many meetings with representatives from New York National Association of Theater Owners and has given them many, many excuses of why they couldn't open. Well, he's run out of excuses now, 6 months later. Some people have said that us inviting you folks here today is an illegal act. If you feel like a criminal, raise your hand. Good, I'm glad we have no criminals here. I don't feel like a criminal either. But we've been put out of business for 6 months. We're hoping it stops. We're not in any position to file a suit. NATO tried that in Jersey. They lost the suit. They're not going to spend any money to fight it in New York, to lose against another judge that was appointed by somebody who's probably already made up his mind. So that ain't going to happen. We were allowed to open our 2 theaters in Vermont on May 12th at 25% capacity. Less than a month later, Governor of Vermont decided we could go to 50% capacity. We've been operating safely since May. And I'm going to turn this over to Matt. Matt is going to go through a lot of safety protocols and procedures that will be involved when our theaters, and a lot of theaters, are doing very similar things across the state. And Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Al. I'll be talking about some of the safety protocols. These things have been brought together from NATO, the National Association of Theater Owners, suggestions that they've got, plans that they've come up with. We have the theaters in Vermont, so we follow protocols from there, melded those in with the NATO ones, came up with some of our own ideas, some stuff from the CDC, so a whole mixture of safety protocols that we'll be working with. I'm going to start out with some of the more common ones that you've seen at regular businesses, restaurants and bars and Walmart and those types of things. So we'll start out first with distancing. I think everybody is familiar with that. So we got 6 foot distancing here. We'll have, as you saw, tape marks on the floor for spacing for the concession counter, for the ticket counter. Every other, stall is blocked off in the bathroom. Urinals are blocked off. Maintain that distancing. Every other sink is blocked off, so you got the 6 foot distancing in that part there. So that covers distancing. I'll get to the theater distancing a little bit later on. Masks and gloves. Gloves are standard for when we're serving food here. So employees, when they're working with the popcorn, soda, or other concession items will be required to wear gloves. We'll have signs on the door. Patrons must wear masks while they're in the theater, and in the hallways, and the concession counter areas, and in the lobby. The employees also, of course, will be required to wear a mask while they're working behind the concession counter, or pretty much anywhere in the theater unless they're on a break in a designated room away from the other patrons. Enhanced cleaning, we'll step up the cleaning. Bathrooms will be checked and cleaned on a regular basis. High-touch areas such as counters will be wiped down with a disinfectant to make sure there's no transfer there. Hand sanitizer, we'll have jugs of hand sanitizer in the bathrooms, men's room, women's room, and one at the concession counter, and one for the employees to use as well. So that would be for the hand sanitizing. As far as employee health, we want to make sure that our employees are healthy and not, subject to transmitting anything between employees or obviously the customers themselves. So we'll employ non-contact thermometers to read the temperatures of people when they, or the employees when they come in, not necessarily the customers unless the state requires that. The employees will also go through a training period where they will be told what things to look out for their own health, if they feel sick, feverish, those types of things, to alert the manager so they don't come in. And if they were working and then do have symptoms, they'll be subject to a quarantine period and possible contact tracing between the employees and the customers. High contact items such as video games will be made non-operational. As you saw, they were turned off and stowed away. And other, common contact things such as water fountains are also put out of service for the time being. Entrance signs, as you've seen at other businesses, they say wear a face mask, and if you are having symptoms of fever or other items, to not enter the building, or if you've been in contact with somebody that may have had COVID-19, to not enter the building. For the time being, things such as salt shakers will be taken off the counter, and if you want extra salt, we'll be giving you packets of salt. Same thing for if you buy a hot dog, instead of a common shared ketchup bottle, whatever, we'll have individual packets of mustard and ketchup. Straws will also be distributed by the staff, so there's less touching among the patrons coming in and out of the building. A lot of you are familiar with our refill policy, and we'd like to continue that, and the best way that we've determined was for large popcorns, if you'd like your refill, we'll give you one of these bags to go, because we don't want the container coming back that's been out in the theater and you've been touching it and stuff like that. So we will not be refilling any containers, but we'll give you a separate bag. As far as the sodas are concerned, we won't be doing soda refills for the time being. Now on to some of the more theater-specific items. We're going to be, I don't have a chair to throw out, but we'll be cutting our seating capacity to the amount that the state mandates. Probably 50, we're hoping for 50%. If it's 25 or 33 or 37.5%, we'll work with whatever the state tells us. But we will be reducing our seating capacity. That only makes sense. In regards to that and the distancing in the theaters, we have a theater software system now, and we have the numbered and reserved seating system. So what we'll do is block off every other row, and then when somebody purchases a group of tickets in a common group, then it'll automatically block off a seat or two on either side of them. So those are automatically populated to maintain distancing in the theater itself. Staggering showtimes is something that we'll also incorporate. We've always done it in the past to a certain extent, but we'll pay extra attention to it now. That'll reduce the common area traffic in the lobby, the entrances, and the exits. So staggering showtimes can have a great effect, unlike a Walmart or a restaurant where people just kind of show up whenever. People tend to come to the movies, at a certain time period beforehand, usually 15 to 10 minutes before the show. With regard to the HVAC systems, and we've heard some politicians say that we have a single point circulation system. That's not true. Each auditorium has its own HVAC system. So Theater 1 is separate from Theater 2, 2 is separate from 3, the lobby is separate from all of them. So they're all their individual systems. We also intend to run the fans constantly so that the air is constantly circulated. And we can open the economizers, which will bring in 10 to 20% fresh outside air with each circulation pattern. In addition to that, we have been running normal filters like everybody else, MERV 7 or MERV 8 filters. When the governor started talking about the shopping malls upgrading their filters, we said it sounds like a good idea. We better get on board with that. So we tossed our old filters out. Say hello to MERV 13 filters. These are the cat's meow, so to speak, of filters. They will filter out everything right down the viruses, bacteria, pollen, you name it. It's the same type of filter you use at a hospital, surgical rooms, those types of things there. So we're up on quality on par with that. Finally, for in between the shows, if people have concerns, if somebody else has been sitting in a seat, especially a cloth seat, that's not quite as easy to wipe down with a rag or whatever with sanitizer. We have what is called an electrostatic fogger, and this will be filled with a disinfectant virucide approved by the EPA. And in between shows, we can come in and fog the seats, and that'll sanitize all the seats really well. I can give you a demonstration of that right now.
You guys in the second row might want to move back a row. cost almost $500.
Yeah, so that's another safety protocol above and beyond what a lot of other businesses do. So those are some of the safety protocols that we've come up with, put together from NATO, National Association of Theater Owners, the Vermont Guide, the CDC's Guide, and some of the things that we thought of on our own. Just a short story. It kind of makes a point. Every 6 months or so, airline captains are required to go through recurrent training. And there was this old SALT captain, he was due for recurrent training. He went down for the training, and then there was this new instructor there that was giving him the test. And the instructor said, oh, I'm going to put this guy through his paces. So they get in the simulator, they take off, and right after takeoff, the instructor gives them 3 emergencies all at once. Bang, 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 bang. So the old SALT airline captain clicks on the autopilot, clicks his seat back, a couple clicks, pulls out his glasses, and he starts cleaning his glasses. And the instructor says, what are you doing? You got 3 emergencies. You know, what are you doing cleaning your glasses? And the old SALT captain turns to him and says, I never killed anybody by cleaning my glasses. See, the instructor had given him 3 emergencies. They were emergencies, but they weren't memory action items. They weren't that critical. So what can happen is if you pull a wrong lever or a button in that type of situation, you can make matters a lot worse. Okay, so the point is that the captain then pulled his seat forward and called for the appropriate checklist. And we've had 6 months to put this together. It's not like we're doing a knee-jerk reaction here where we're just flipping knobs and dials or whatever. We've had 6 months. We've talked to other businesses. We studied the CDC guides, the Vermont guide, the NATO guide. So we've had 6 months to clean our glasses. We've pulled the appropriate checklist. It's time to execute it.
Thank you. Before we let Matt sit down. Is this working? Okay. Anybody have questions about any of the safety procedures or protocols at all? No one? You trust us to keep you safe?
Yeah.
All right, where is Jackie Mangiamelli? Jackie. All right, here she comes. Jackie's our office manager. Been with me for many years. She's been following some of our Facebook pages lately. We have 5 very active Facebook pages. Take it away, Jackie.
Okay. So I just want to provide you guys with some basic stats on our Facebook pages.
Louder.
Can't hear me?
Closer to your mouth.
Can't hear you.
All right, fine. Between our 2 pages for the Lyceum and the Roosevelt Cinemas, we've reached approximately 120,000 people in the last 28 days alone. So we are very busy on Facebook. Of those who post comments, well over 95% of them want our theaters to reopen now. Here are just a few of those comments. Kim Kempton Williams says, I can't wait until you can reopen again. You have a great plan for the safe reopening of your theaters. You've successfully opened your Vermont theaters with no issues. I appreciate all of your hard work. I've always supported you, and I intend to continue supporting you as soon as you're given the green light to open. Marianne Meglio says, your folks at the Lyceum are awesome. Thank you so much for being a rock in our community and putting smiles on our kids' faces. Vivian Kiblayan says, I love the Lyceum Cinemas. The theater is always clean, the employees are always respectful and pleasant, and of course the prices are easy on our wallet. Lastly, the popcorn is out of this world, because everyone knows we have the best popcorn in Hudson Valley. In Hyde Park, we have Mark Hancock, who says, we're all praying here in Hudson Valley that you can open soon. We so need your great family and customer services. We miss your smiling faces and the nice atmosphere you give to everybody. Colleen Morgan says, you guys are really amazing. I've been going to your place for over 30 years. We love it. I can't wait for you to reopen. We miss going there. Thanks for hanging on. And lastly, Jason Vergy says, it's absolutely terrible that a good family, safe business such as yours cannot open. I've seen movies as a kid at your theater. It's been around for many generations, and everyone in this area has been to the Roosevelt and misses it. 2 of our local patrons started our GoFundMe pages on our Facebook page for us, for both the Roosevelt and the Lyceum. They're trying to help us out with school taxes and things like that. So if anyone's interested in making a donation to that, you can find the links on our Facebook pages for the Lyceum Cinemas and the Roosevelt Cinemas. We appreciate everyone and everyone's help and everyone's support. We really do. Thank you.
Just to add one thing to what Jackie said, these are copies of our school tax bills. In Red Hook, on November 9th, we have to come up with $26,891.89. I'm sorry, that was Hyde Park. In Red Hook on November 7th, we have to come up with $25,676.71. I'm mailing copies of these tomorrow morning to Andrew Cuomo. Maybe he'll send us a check. I want to introduce my film buyer, Rob Lewinsky. He's the intermediary between independent theater owners and the studios. Because independent theater owners have no clout. We can't get many people on the phone. A film buyer will represent dozens of independent theater owners, and they answer Rob's calls. So, and I'm going to turn this over to him. He has a few words to say about the industry in general and what we're going through.
What Al was just saying is, I filter what Al says to me when I speak to the studios. I can't exactly tell them what Al told me before I speak to them. Okay. I program movie theaters all over the United States, in the Bahamas, Bermuda. We have several states open where I have movie theaters. Al's theaters in Vermont, Connecticut, New Jersey just recently opened. I have a theater in Florida. And there has been no issues at all at any of these theaters from patrons. They're happy. All we get is that they're happy that you're open. You know, we love to see the movies. Our biggest problem is the product isn't there. Every studio keeps moving the film away from an original play date that was scheduled. Case in point, on Monday, I get a call from STX Entertainment, and they were supposed to be releasing Greenland, the Gerard Butler action film, next Friday, September 25th. It's not going. They're rescheduling it. We don't have a date. I'm sure you've already heard that Warner Brothers moved Wonder Woman out of October 2nd, and now it's going Christmas. So the more that keeps happening, to the detriment of movie theater owners in the state of New York. New York is the #2 grossing market in the country. 6.76% of the box office comes out of New York. Last year, New York generated $750 million at the box office, right behind Los Angeles, which is the #1 at $900 million. And then right behind New York is San Francisco at 2.66% of the box office. So right there tells you Andrew Cuomo has got to let New York open. If they want to do it in stages, something, because, you know, it just affects everybody. Restaurants, you know, on down to the people that, you know, get them off unemployment. Let them come back to work. They're worried about, you know, the safety protocols are there. I've seen it with the theaters on programming. There has been absolutely no issues. Matt has just shown everything that's going to get done. It's going to be safe. But without the product, they're dead. And what's going to happen is, if I would say in the next couple weeks, if there isn't an answer about New York reopening, you're going to see Black Widow on November 6th disappear. And that is what we're waiting for. These big blockbuster movies. That'll give you guys the reason to get out and want to go to the movie theater. It'll be safe, and but without these big movies, they're going to keep moving away, just like Top Gun moved to next July, and Quiet Place 2 is next year, and on and on. All these Fast and Furious next year, and not going to survive. There's going to be it's going to kill the independent. I don't know what's going to happen with these big box AMCs. I mean, they got deep pockets. Al doesn't have deep pockets. Al's got bills to pay, and they keep coming. So I just hope something happens soon, and Andrew Cuomo changes his mind and gives a decision, because if we don't know in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see movies moving away, and it's going to be tough. Thank you.
We have a few more guests that are going to say a few words, and I hope within 15 minutes we're going to show a movie. And it'll be a good night if I don't leave here in handcuffs. First up, Will Truitt, County Legislator from Hyde Park. Will believes in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Especially on this Constitution Day.
Constitution Day, amen.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Will Truitt. I'm a county legislator. I represent Hyde Park and Poughkeepsie. And let me just first get a poll in this room. So we just saw this demonstration here for the safety protocols that we have. Who feels more safe at a protest out in the streets than this? Honest to God, it is time that we reopen movie theaters here in New York State. Andrew Cuomo will be receiving a letter from me in my office tomorrow that we demand movie theaters to reopen in New York State. 47 states, as Al said, we have movie theaters open, but not in New York. And why is that? It's very bizarre. Of course, this is one of the most challenging years that we have seen in recent memory, both economically and health-wise for the public. And difficult decisions need to be made. But they need to make sense. I mean, we have essentially every other business is allowed to open. But why not movie theaters? Why is it that they're being discriminated against as if they can't make health calls on their own and take the proper safety measures that they need to take? So I stand with Al, I stand with the movie theaters, that it's time for them to open. And I have some remarks here from our county executive and Red Hook resident, Mark Molinaro. Dear friends, while I'm sorry family commitments have precluded me from joining you today, please know I'm with you in spirit as we look forward to this local entertainment institution once again bringing countless hours of quality fun to local families in the very near future. As our nation today celebrates Constitution Day, taking pause to commemorate the adoption of the document that has shaped our more perfect union, we remind ourselves of the great freedoms enumerated in the Constitution. Rights our forefathers fought valiantly to win us, liberties we continue to enjoy today. Though these trying times have separated us for far too long, through residents' personal sacrifice and government's prudent planning, we have slowly been able to come back together as a community, as a county, and as a nation. We have complied to the guidance that allowed our phased reopening to commence in late May, and I'm proud of the residents of Dutchess County whose adherence to state and national protocols has helped us to flatten the curve of this pandemic locally, permitted some semblance of normalcy to return, and given us hope for the future. Still, despite the precautions we have taken, with no regard for the great care of our local businesses, have undertaken to safeguard customers' health and open appropriately, Governor Andrew Cuomo has provided no timetable for certain businesses to reopen. Instead, businesses like Lyceum Cinemas, which contribute tax revenue to the local economy and employ our neighbors, remain shuttered with no glimmer of hope on which to cling. Such business owners who years ago pursued the American dream of entrepreneurship and self-determination and who have followed the prescribed safety guidelines now find their very livelihood at stake. On this day, we celebrate our constitutional rights. We implore our governor to do what is right, allow local businesses that have taken all necessary precautions and proven they're safe to reopen to once again welcome the customers who long to again patronize them and keep these businesses a vital part of our communities. Stay safe and be well. Marcus J. Molinaro, Dutchess County Executive. And just to say, I completely agree with our county executive. He has done a tremendous job leading Dutchess County during these times, and he's spot on the money right there. And so I'm not able to stay tonight for the movie. I really wish I could. I didn't see it when it came out. It came out in 1964. I was born 31 years later. So I wish I could see it. I'll make a...
We're going to loan you the DVD.
Okay, he'll loan me the DVD, and I'll make a point of watching it one of these nights. So good seeing everyone here. You all are truly patriots. God bless you all, and stay healthy and safe.
Before you leave, I have a question.
Bye, guys. God bless you too. See you.
Before you
Jack
leave,
Hayes.
Is there anything we can do to try and help?
Jack is the chairman of the Ulster County Conservative Party. He's going to say a few words.
When you're out on Facebook, if you're on Facebook or anywhere making comments, yes, absolutely.
Thanks, everybody, for coming tonight. My background, I was with the state police for 33 years, the last 10 of which was in emergency management. And we looked at all types of things that we're looking at tonight. Decontamination, hot zones, I work very closely with fire departments. And I also work very closely with knowing what Article 2B of the executive law is when you declare an emergency. I've never seen an emergency declaration last this long. This is incredible. I think it's time that the state legislature and the state senate got more involved, because they should be approving whether this goes on or not. You can't write an emergency declaration that lasts forever. There's got to be input from the people, and the people's input are the Senate and the Assembly. I ran for the Assembly in your district in 16. I felt we needed to have a second choice. We're getting into a one-party system, and I think we needed people to hear from another side of the story. So I believe the efforts that are being made here go to the heart of what small business is going to survive. They can't go much longer. I was with a tavern owner today. 2 people walked out of his tavern after eating and didn't put their face masks up. They fined him $1,500. Do you know how many sandwiches and glasses of beer you have to sell to make $1,500 clear? I think we need to start opening back up. We need to start. I worked on the bird flu pandemic as a state police emergency manager. We did a lot of good work. We found out what needed to be done. We met with epidemiologists throughout the Hudson Valley. We set up places for people if they were sick. All the way up to Lake Sacandaga, my portion was to make sure that there were facilities ready to take people. We did a good job. They did a good job this time around. Now it's time to start the recovery process. And the recovery process means we've got to get back to work. Thank you very much for listening to me. It was very enjoyable to talk to you.
Dean Michael, come up and say hello. Dean is a deputy town supervisor in town of Clinton. I believe he's running for state assembly, is that right?
I am. Good evening, everybody. Al told me not to be political, so I'll try not to be. But as Al said, I am in politics, so I'm a deputy supervisor, and I'm also running for assembly. But I also, during my day job, is an insurance agent. And what insurance agents do is we manage risk, all right? Because you can never be 100% without risk. You manage it. What Al has done here and what he has demonstrated is he's managed risk. I was, 3 weeks now that the gyms opened? I went to the gyms. They managed risks. The bowling alleys opened up. They managed risks. Al's already demonstrated that he's managed the risks. Why is our governor, I'll clean it up, why is our governor penalizing our theaters? There's got to be something wrong. There's got to be something going on. I've seen other businesses, whether it be restaurants, so I think it was like 4 months ago, the Benora Hospitality came together before they opened up the restaurants, and they put together a plan. They managed the risk. You think that the governor would take the plan and implement this phenomenal plan? No, he's got to come up with something better. He's got to come up with his own idea. Well, Mr. Governor, sometimes we have to take advice from other people. You don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I would rely on Al being in the theater as to what he thinks the answer is. Now, he may not be 100% right, but you take that information, you cross-reference it with other experts, and you come up with a plan. Manage risk. I think Al's done it. I think it's time for Al to open up, as well as all the other theaters. There you go. Thank you.
Last but not least, Victoria Alexander, who happens to be running for Congress on the Libertarian ticket.
That's right, Victoria Alexander running for Congress, New York District 19 against Antonio Delgado.
Well, that'd be good. You gotta speak up, Tori. Louder.
Right, so government should do no harm to the people, right?
Okay.
When harm is done in the name of good, greater good, people are persuaded to go against common sense. This is what I've been seeing. I'm not impressed at all with some of the measures that have been done that have not been protecting the people who are at risk. I was horrified to see that healthy people were being asked to stay home and collect unemployment, while the essential workers who had heart disease or diabetes were working as cashiers. So what's going on? That didn't make any sense. The CARES Act, that was the stimulus bill that you were told was meant to help the people and small businesses. Actually, it gave trillions of dollars to insiders. The Federal Reserve just creates money out of thin air. You know that, right? Because the value of that monopoly money is going to collapse, and it will, what they need now is land, real property. Conveniently, many business owners have not been allowed to operate for as long as 6 months. And they might be forced to sell their property. We are about to see even more wealth and power be transferred from the middle class to the 1%. There is a terrible concentration of wealth and power. My motto is decentralize the power. If all theaters are controlled by 1 or 2 huge media companies, all they're going to show are the same films, and a lot of filmmakers are going to be locked out. That's a kind of censorship, a cultural censorship, and it's not good. It's not good at all. Recently, a federal judge ruled that the Pennsylvania governor's lockdown measures were unconstitutional. And he said, the liberties protected by the Constitution are not fair weather freedoms to be cast aside in times of trouble.
And the very reason why we have a constitution is to prevent those in power from using a crisis to seize more power and pretending to care. I'm Victoria Alexander, Libertarian candidate for Congress, running against Antonio Delgado. I hope you'll support me because I'll fight for you in Washington, because this is crazy. Main Street is in trouble. Thank you.